Hello, hello. Welcome to the live stream. Hope you're having a good day. And today I'll try and keep it fairly short. We will talk about some of the latest developments in Sail CLI for WordPress. We did have quite a big release last night, 0.10.0, which is a breaking release. So if you have used Sail for your WordPress projects, you might want to read the migration guide or notes rather on how to convert your existing 0.9 Sail projects to 0.10, because there are some breaking changes. But anyway, let's dive into the changelog, and I'll try and talk about some of the stuff here. A lot of the work that is related to this was actually started in an earlier release where we introduced Fabric for some of the Sail stuff. The way Sail used to work was there's the CLI client, and then there's an API service which is run on sail.io, and a lot of the stuff, including things like provisioning a server, happened on the API side. So the client side would simply ask for the API server to provision a DigitalOcean droplet. But that has changed, and in 0.10.0, all of the functionality in Sail CLI has been converted to be 100% client side. So provisioning, deployments, profiling, backups. Well, backups still happen client-side in the early days as well. But all of this stuff, including things like domain management and SSL, is now in the Sail client itself. So it's no longer relying on the API service to do anything except controlling the justsailed.io DNS. So justsailed.io is basically when you provision a Sail project, you will get a temporary subdomain on justsailed.io, which you can use for for testing or whatever you're trying to do. So that part is still controlled by the Sail CLI service. But other than that, everything is now happening client side. And we also did some changes around provisioning as well. So we dropped the use of Docker for now and reverted to a thing called cloud config. So cloud config is basically a YAML file that we send to DigitalOcean, and DigitalOcean basically then runs a service called Cloud Init, which like installs a bunch of apt packages, create swap, run some commands and things like that. So we basically define what commands we want to run as soon as the server is provisioned. And then in addition to that, we also do some of the stuff directly through SSH. Now having Fabric as a dependency, and Fabric is basically a library for Python, which allows you to run remote commands on SSH servers through Python. So if you take a look at the provision py file, you'll see that as part of the init, there's actually a task called, I think, environment provision. So we're like generating keys, like all of this is now happening client side. And then we're also baking configuration files, creating databases, requesting certificates, and all of that stuff is happening in Python. So the Cloud Init is just taking care of installing some packages, basically. But anyway, yeah. So the provisioning is now happening inside the client. Let me go back to the release notes. I will do a demo about namespaces and environments, which is a really nice feature and has been requested by quite a few early adopters of Sail. We added a pre-deploy hook, and the pre-deploy hook is, I guess it's one of those. It's essentially an executable that runs whenever you're trying to deploy something. So there we go. It's basically a shell script, and you can do whatever you want in the shell script. And you can run things like sail diff to get a list of files that are about to be changed or removed or updated, or new files that are about to be pushed to the production server. And then you can do things like lint those files in PHP to make sure that you don't have any syntax errors or parse errors. You can run them through a code sniffer to make sure that it's up to the standards. And very similar to how Git hooks work, or subversion hooks, if you're familiar with those. And basically this file can block, like if you exit one, it will just block the deploy and it won't allow you to deploy. There is of course a flag which you can use to force a deployment, even if it doesn't pass your linting or code sniffing or unit tests or whatever. But yeah, if you do have a workflow set up with unit testing and code sniffer and linting, pretty sure this would be a good addition to your usage of Sail. So pre-deploy sail diff. So sail diff is basically a shortcut to sail deploy dry run, which has been there for a while. It gives you a list of affected files that are about to be deployed. Also added a new install shell script, which is now the default recommended way of installing Sail. So it is a It is very similar to how one would install things like Homebrew, for example. It's just a curl, or WP CLI. It's just a curl request and then a pipe to bash. So when you run this in your terminal, it'll probably ask me for my password. It does need that to be able to write in to the system directories. But what it does is it does a git checkout of the latest branch by default, but you can have it install any version you like, and it just installs the CLI for you directly from source, basically. So you no longer have to wait for us to ship updates to Homebrew or PyPy, but also this gives you the ability to run Sail pre-releases as well as Sail mainline. So if you do bash minus, I think it was -s. Okay, knowledge base, installing Sail, -s. So you can pass arguments to the script and say, I want to install 0.9.18, and it will then remove your previous installation and then install